all-star team.
U.S. just brings in skill.
Happy New Year. We are here for the pregame show. John's looking very festive. Luddy was just called Scrooge, which I don't understand why. He's
I don't get it.
wearing a very festive hat. In fact,
in a great mood.
it's Luddy's responsibility. That's why we have these wonderful props.
It's Kim's.
Okay, but you brought them in, so you get some
I
credit.
drove them here.
Yeah, you delivered them.
I delivered them.
And then there's Sam, who probably has Scrooge-like tendencies. He does not have a hat. You got to go find some sparklers or something.
I know. I thought we were going to have them when we came in the building here, but they didn't have them for us.
No, they don't have Luds and Kim giving us the festive spirit.
Well, you should have been here, Sam.
Should have. No, missed out. So instead, we got John looking like I was going to say an X-Men party goer.
If I was down here, I'd have the Cyclops thing going on.
The only problem is that you wouldn't be able to see your screens.
I know. Well, I can barely even hear you guys now because I'm 30 seconds behind in here right now. So after I get the levels checked, maybe I'll remove the
Let's
the
get it
headphones.
going. Let's have some fun. Stars pregame show against the Sabres right now. It is the end of a year, but we're right in the middle of it at the same time as we welcome you to the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. We're live from the lounge studio here at our DLS headquarters. Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler's over at American Airlines Center. Producer John himself, John Anderson, is here and trying to stay functional and festive at the same time. Turn that some gun sideways there.
So I put it like this, and then I could move my shot onto Sam's head.
That would be kind of funny, except for if you turn it 90 degrees, you'll see it says Happy New Year. There you go. See, now Sam has a hat.
Oh, beauty.
There you go, Sam.
Beauty.
You look much more festive now. All right,
Thank you.
Let's get to it. This is the and Luds looked at me earlier when I told him I tabulated all this as if I was nuts. 23rd New Year's Eve game in Dallas in the club's history since moving from Minnesota. They actually had a run of New Year's Eve games back there. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Sam, we have to start with lineup news. It's a big deal because today Matt Dumba has been activated from injured reserve, and he will play for the first time since December 8th, which was against Calgary. And he missed 8 games with an upper body injury. We have not gotten any more details other than it did not happen in a game. Tell us more about the latest with Matt Dumba.
Yeah, for Dumba, we were all caught off a little bit with surprise because when we watched morning skate, he was out there. We knew that Bischel was sent down, so we figured that Brendan Smith would come in and get a game. He hasn't played in a bit. Good chance to get him a game, get Bischel down there to get some games down in Cedar Park. And then all of a sudden, he wasn't even available when we were in the room. We couldn't even talk to Dumba. So very surprising when Pete said that he was back in the lineup, activated off of IR basically right after we did that press conference. He will come in tonight. They will be right-handed heavy, which is funny to say because that's been the opposite for so many years, it feels like, in Dallas. But it's a big one for Dumba, right? He's had a tough go, right? As soon as he started getting going the first time, he got hurt. Then he gets a couple of games where he's playing a little better. He gets hurt again. And it's just been really tough for him. And Pete DeBoer talked about, despite the injuries, he's been here long enough now. And it's time for him to step in the lineup. And I believe the way he worded it was contribute to the D-core. And that's what they're looking for from number 3 here tonight. And maybe a little bit of physicality on New Year's Eve.
Luds, I thought that it was interesting that Pete said he's been here long enough, even though he hasn't been playing due to some injuries, that he knows our systems. He basically wasn't giving him any excuses.
Well, what I'd like to know is, why is he wearing the fishbowl, the big fish cage, the whole thing over covered? It's a little fishy to me. I'm just telling you, and it didn't happen in a game. It's fishy to me.
I think it's
Isn't it?
extremely fishy.
Sam, start digging, man.
We're trying. I will tell you right now, there is nothing being given out by anybody about it. The only thing I can say is Matt Dumba did have a cut over underneath his eye when he did
Oh, it
first
just got
skate.
fishier.
That's all I got though. In that first practice, he had the cut underneath his eye when he came out with the bubble, and since then, that's all we've heard, and they're not giving us anything further about it. So I agree, it's a little odd. Don't want to speculate. Have no clue what it could be from outside of a game. Whether it's personal, whether it's something that happened within the team, I don't know. But the good news is he's back. We just heard that Marchment has a similar, the way Pete talked about it was a similar injury, similar time frame. So we assume, again, facial injury like we saw with Marchment. And for Dumba, I think it was all about feeling good. It's not like it's a pulled groin or a foot injury where he needed to skate and see how it felt. It was probably something with his head, whether he's feeling better mentally, whether it's physically, but he's ready to go for whatever reason it took as long as it did. He's in now tonight, and they need him to step up. Matt Dumba was supposed to be this big signing, and we've seen some glimpses of good, we've seen some glimpses of bad, but mostly we've seen him out of the lineup. So for him tonight, it's a huge opportunity, and not sure how he'll line up on the back end, but he's going to get a chance here tonight to impress some people.
I know you're not a big movie guy, but you must have seen the first Back to the Future movie.
I did.
Okay. You remember when he wore the big puffy vest back to 1955 and they thought he was in the Coast Guard?
Okay,
Like,
I don't remember that, but I know the movie.
They said,
Yeah.
why are you wearing the life preserver to Michael J. Fox? I was just checking out Sam's vest, kind of wondering if he was about to go overboard.
I'm ready. I'm ready. New year, Back to the Future. It's perfect.
Well, for Dumba, I think that I don't think he came in here with expectations of being a number 2 defenseman, right? I don't think that was why he was here. I don't think they knew who the number 2 was going to be. Maybe it was because we figured that Harley would, be on the left and then all of a sudden things changed and then Dumba becomes, Miro's partner, so to speak.
At least to start
I think,
the year.
But I think that was, I think it gave it false hope. I don't think he was ever going to be a number 2. And I think by playing him there, now we're kind of measuring by that. And now you see him, well, it doesn't matter, in the lineup now. And then
you give me an interesting idea. Let's really do this since Sean's not here, Sam. Do you think Nils Lundqvist is playing enough that he could give a crack with his game right now, that he could play next to Miro if you want to do a righty-lefty with 3 pairs now that Dumba's available?
I think he should stay at 4. And the only reason I say that is because I think, you're trying to get Miro out there against top lines.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he's ready for that.
Is that not putting him in the best position?
I just think that if you get a steady diet tonight of Thompson and Zucker and, the guy like Alex Tuck over there that happens to be got 1 year left on his contract. He's only making $4 million. I don't know. Maybe we're looking for a guy.
Hey-o.
But, there could be. I mean, he might be wouldn't that be a good fit playing next? And the guy can fly. Can you see him playing on the right side of that guy up there that wears number 24 on our team?
It would be really interesting to watch those two skate together, especially since he has a history with a certain former Vegas coach.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. But anyway, I mean, I don't know. What shouldn't have anything to do with the timing of putting Dumba in tonight so that the Buffalo team can see him play if they're maybe talking about something.
I mean, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
No, I'm not speculating. I'm just saying. No, I think Matt Dumba can be a good 4-5. That's what I think he is. And I think from the passing part of it, yes, he's a physical guy. He doesn't make the correct plays all the time, but I give him a pass when he does come into a different system. It is a little bit of an adjustment. If you play another way for 10 years,
I thought Alex Tuck was older. He's only 28.
He's 28 years old.
I've
done all the math on this dude.
Unbelievable.
Good player.
For some reason, I thought he was in his early 30s because he's been around and he's been good for a while.
And he's got a good price tag on him, too.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
Sam, what about the fallout of this Dumba activation, which is Liam Bichsel sent back to the AHL. A bunch of people on social media were clamoring that this was a paper move, which, again, paper moves aren't really done. Players have to travel reasonably. And it's not. Bichsel is back in the AHL now, and Pete DeBoer had some interesting messages this morning about what he wants to see from the big defenseman.
Yeah, number one thing was to get down there and play at the NHL level, right? You always hear about going down. The number one thing you always hear when you talk about going down is get some more minutes, especially for a forward. Maybe it's playing on a fourth line up here. You say go down there, get on the power play, go down there, play in the final couple minutes when your team needs a goal, or those type of big moments that you're just not going to get at the NHL level. For Bischel, it's more about going down there, playing big minutes, of course, what Pete said is a big part of it, but playing those minutes at the NHL level with NHL detail, which I thought was a really good way to word that, because it's really easy to go down and play. You drop down a level, you can control the game. Like Bischel should go down. He's not playing tonight in Manitoba, but when his next game comes, he should be able to dominate. That's what level he should be at after playing as many games as he has up at this level already, and how good he already was. So for him to go down there, he could easily just kind of drop down to that. I can do whatever I want here. I can make those plays that I can't make at the NHL level. But that's how players stay down there, right? They go down, they get in that trap of playing the level to the level of their opponents. And yeah, you can go down there and you can get away with some of those passes. You can get away with some blind plays or rushes up the ice or maybe a pinch here or there. But that's not going to work at the NHL level. And if you want to get yourself called back up, and as we all believe, I was surprised to see him go down in general, despite the Dumba thing. But as we all believe, he is a big part of the future, not just next season or 2 years from now, this year and this year into the playoffs. And if he wants to get called back up in a couple weeks, a month, 2 months, he needs to play at the NHL level with that NHL detail. Show the coaching staff and Jim Nill up here that when they call him up here, there won't be another period where he has to get adjusted. He'll be able to come right in and step right back into where he was, maybe with a little bit more experience and confidence.
I'm going to be kind of like the Alex Jones of the show here today.
Oh, no.
Well, I remember the last thing that I think Pete said when they were talking about Land was, I thought the last game was his best game.
He said that literally yesterday.
Yep.
It's just curious timing for me. It could be because you're sending the guy off with some confidence. You played well here. Or could it have been knowing that he's going down and maybe he didn't want him to leave and he wanted to keep the lineup status quo, and that comment could be for somebody else. I don't know. I mean, it could be. I mean, he seemed to find a way to keep Lundqvist out of the lineup in the playoffs last year. I mean, kind of sat him down, and, so maybe sometimes it's just sending a message to other people. I don't know.
The thing that Pete said this morning was, and to Sam's point, is he needed to take the NHL details he learned here and hang on to those when he goes and plays those big minutes.
Yep. Well, and what he means by that, exactly what Sam talked about, is don't go down there. Continue to do the things that you did here, so you get used to doing them when you get back here. And he's going to be back here, and it could be soon. But there is the tendency that happens, and we've seen it, over time. Players get sent down from having a good stint here, and next thing you know, they go down and they start dangling and do these other things and get up and take chances, and then they get back here, and then it takes them a game or two to adjust to get back to who they are.
Yep.
They basically want you to go down there and say, continue to do the stuff you do, play physical in front of your net, move the puck, get up on the play when you're supposed to get up, and follow it up from the back. You don't have to lead the rush. And when you should, he's made good decisions offensively. I don't think I think we kind of expected him, or at least I was thinking, is he the kind of guy that's going to jump into the play every single night? Scores in his first game.
His first game felt that way, didn't it?
But I think he calmed himself down, which is a great. I don't know if he calmed himself down, but he decided, or he just picked his spots, which tells you a lot about the player and how he thinks about the game. And it's a good quality to have, knowing with the other guys that you have back there on the back end, meaning Harley and Miro and guys that like jumping up in the play, do your job. So, I expect him to be back here. We'll see how long it takes before there's a lineup change maybe, or another injury.
Sam, last lineup news for you before we let you go is Casey DeSmith gets the starting goal tonight. He has excellent numbers against the Buffalo Sabres in his career.
Yeah, some crazy numbers. I think it was 934, 943 save percentage, 1.99 goals against, and he's got a great record against the Sabres. I don't know how much the opposing teams go into it, but certainly has the history of being able to play well against this team. And for Casey, I spoke to him before we knew he was starting. I was just talking to Casey in general, and I was talking about his helmet and his new mask, his blackout mask that I mistakenly took for a e-bug the first time we saw it. But I asked him, I just mentioned it, and he said, yeah, I'm excited to finally wear it. And at the moment, I didn't realize for another minute or so that he was telling me that he was starting, and that we're finally going to get to wear that helmet, because all the other blackout games so far, he's been the backup. So for Casey, I think this is a big one, not only because it's a big night, right? It's not on the scale of Finland or anything like that, but this is a big night in Dallas. This is as Owen was talking about, this is a tradition that dates way back. The Stars have a really good record, which I'm sure you guys will talk about on this game. You got tons of eyes. It's expected to be a sellout, wild crowd tonight. It's a big game for the Stars too, so it's a lot of things going towards Casey DeSmith. And he's just excited to not play Utah. I said, hey, Utah's coming in a couple of days here, or a few days here. We thought maybe you'd be in that game. And he was like, thank goodness, finally get to play against another team here this season. So I think it's exciting for him. I think he's going to have a big game tonight. I really do. I think that he's been really good for them lately when he's gotten in there. And tonight, we'll see. There's a couple of question marks with how that D is going to look. We don't know how Dumba's going to step in. It might be a slower start for Dallas, or maybe they have to hold on tight for a lead. But Casey DeSmith, I believe, will be good tonight, and he's excited to play on the bigger scale of at-home New Year's Eve.
Hey, Sam, I'm looking at Leah's Twitter feed. Leah is the beat writer for the Dallas Morning News, and apparently there is a mechanical bull game set up out in PNC Plaza outside of the east entrance. How much money is it going to take for us to get a video of you riding the mechanical bull?
I'll pay
I'll go right now. I don't know if it'll be there. How'd I get there? You're the one who's coming in later.
It's still there.
All right.
We want video. We want video proof.
We got a post-game show. We might as well have some video for that.
It'll be breaking news. We're cutting in during the game to get you on that horse.
All right, I'll do my best. I promise.
All right, Sam. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you afterwards.
See you, boys.
All right, Luds. Let's start with one bit of news, and then we'll get to the rest of the lineup here. The Stars were officially fined $100,000 by the NHL for violating terms of the CBA. It came down yesterday afternoon that we found the exact number. We all knew that they were going to get fined. We talked about it on the show yesterday, but the number is $100,000. Robert asked the question, Robert Tiffin, our buddy, this morning to Pete. Pete just said, we weren't supposed to have ice. We did. It was a mistake. We've been fined. We move on.
Move on.
Yeah,
that's what I say too. Move on. It's over with. It's done. And however it got done, why it got done doesn't really matter. They got fined, and again, it'll be in the rearview mirror after tonight's game.
All right, let's talk about tonight's game because, in fact, John, would you throw up the D pairings again? I didn't want to cut into Sam's time to ask this, but this is just a guess for me. We'll find out in a minute. They could go back to 3 righties and 3 lefties, but that would require splitting up Harley and Heiskanen, which I think they've been pretty happy with. I like Lindell and Lundqvist together. So do they ask Matt Dumba to play on his left to coming out off this injury?
Yeah, I think you're going to put him down there to start because you're going to kind of monitor his minutes getting back after how many games he's missed.
8.
And that terrible injury that he had. And
which we still don't know.
Not during a game.
Not an in-game injury.
So he's got to get himself back into kind of game shape. And how many days has he practiced? I know he was out there after guys skated, but how many real practices has he been involved in?
Well, knowing that the last couple that he's been with the team have been either optionals or morning skates, maybe 1.
Yeah. So
it's not easy to do during the season, is it?
It'd be interesting to see. And I don't think conditioning is a problem for him. I think he keeps himself in pretty good shape. We know he can skate. But you may, maybe you're only going to see him play 4 or 5 minutes in the first period and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, generally with a facial injury, you're more worried about contact. So, you can still skate. So maybe he was skating and doing some conditioning work on his own. Maybe he was riding the bike, running on the treadmill.
Unless it was a concussion, then he wasn't doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole different story.
He could have been just crossing the street and got hit by a truck or something.
Let's look at the forward group for the Stars, and we'll get Sam's update if they change it, but I don't think so. 2 questions for you, Luds, about the forward lines. One is Wyatt Johnston will be playing in his 200th career NHL game tonight. 199 games. He has 130 points, and he's plus 24. He's been stunningly good for a young kid, and I think he's only going to keep getting better. Your thoughts of his first 200 games?
Ching, ching. He's going to get paid.
He is.
And he deserves it. I think this was a wake-up call a little bit for him the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Only because he had a great last year. Guys are starting to get money. There's money being thrown around all over the league. And maybe being a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, you thought you could just start the season and you'd pick up right where you left off. It didn't happen for him, didn't happen for a few other guys. But we now see what he does. And I think now he knows he has to, he's not a pure goal scorer. You know what I mean? He has to work. He has to work to get to the right spots, and he's going to let that shot go. I think sometimes he wants to be a little bit more of a distributor, which is understandable. He's trying to, move the puck to certain guys. But I think when he has a shot or shoot first mentality is when he's dangerous. He's very similar to me, like a Bedard. I mean, he's got that little shot where he can take it. He pulls it in. It's a little bit harder for a defenseman to get a stick on it, and he's got an incredible release, and he's not afraid to go to the front of the net. So I think we're just getting a glimpse of what he can ultimately turn into. I can imagine what he's going to be like in 3-4 years.
It's incredible how good he's been at such a young age. All right, on the other side of that line, it's Justin Ritzkovian, who is making his home debut after making his NHL debut 2 nights ago in Chicago. He didn't play a ton. The game and the special teams parade was a big dent to the fourth line, getting a more regular shift. If it's less of a penalty fest tonight against Buffalo, then we could see him play a little bit more. Obviously, Pete's very comfortable with Blackwell and Steele. What are your thoughts after under 6 minutes of action for Ritzkovian?
The good news is nothing stuck out, from a negative thing. And I think when a young player comes up, what you're hoping for, he gets through the game, whether he plays 6 minutes, 10 or 12 minutes, you just don't want some kind of a big mistake or any looks that you're like, he doesn't know where to be on that play. We didn't see any of that. He was fine in the 6-7 minutes that he got. And I think he should get more minutes tonight. I don't think it's going to be a penalty fest again, but if it's not, and also being at home. So you've got the ability to put him out there against the lines that you want him to put out there against.
All right, we got to go back to the D pairings if we would, John. You knew it was coming. They're
switch?
They're going righty-lefty.
Okay.
Ready? Heiskanen, Lyubushkin, Lindell Lundqvist, Harley Dumba. Okay. If I was going to make that change, that certainly appeals to me because I think you can't put Dumba up there already. I like what you mean about trying to keep Nils as the second pairing, the 4. And look, Lyubushkin's been great.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's any problem at all having him next to Miro. And again, I know you say get over the offensive side of it, but I think the hardest thing about being on your offside is if you're in your defensive zone on the wrong side and you're on your backhand deep in the corner trying to clear a puck. Because it's harder to go off the glass and out than it is on your forehand.
Miro's never had a problem there. You know why? He doesn't really go up on his backhand that much. He kind of fakes that way. Then he spins back
and
to
curls.
He curls and he comes to his forehand side. He's learned not
to
just
try
being
to throw
here.
that up on the backhand.
But he's learned how to play on his offside. And you're right. It is easier, obviously, being on your strong side. You see things, you make harder plays on your forehand. But he doesn't. Very rarely do you see him make a backhand pass from over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's quick enough hands. He'll get it to his forehand. And when he does make a backhand pass, it's because he knows he's got a bigger window. He doesn't have to squeeze it into a little window for someone.
So you like the idea of going 3 lefty-righties?
Yeah, I mean, if they're comfortable with it. I don't have I've played with guys, and unfortunately I had to play there a couple, and I'm not the right spot for me. but I've seen guys play on their offside, and they're fine. And again, I think that Miro, when he is on his strong side, he likes coming downhill over there, and we see him when he gets down below the top of the circle, the hash mark, he likes going short side high from there, and he's had some luck doing it. So maybe we'll see a couple tonight.
Interesting to see if that plays out. One more Stars thing, and then we have to get into the Sabres. I happened to notice this morning when I was looking before morning skate. So I asked a bunch of guys when I was downtown today, and I didn't get a good answer. Maybe there isn't one. But you may have noticed this too. The Stars power play, which finally scored a goal after 4 games and struggling, but they went 1 for 7. And Sean said yesterday he thinks that's a fail because they were 0 for the other 6. Should have been more than 1 for 7. I'm fine with that, but okay, they got 1. Let's build on it. However, Luds, they have the worst home power play in the league. Okay, 9.8%. It's 32nd in the league at home. Yet they have a very good home record in terms of winning and losing. They are 15th best on the road, 21.4%. Is there anything you could put your finger on why their power play would be double the success rate on the road at home? I asked Pete DeBoer, he said he didn't think there was anything there. He couldn't put his finger on it. I was talking to Dodonov today. He didn't have any idea. I then went and talked to Nils, and he said, well, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm not on the power play. I said, yeah, but we know you can. And they just said, I don't know if there's anything there. What do you think?
First thing that comes to mind is an extra pass. We saw Robo get 3-4 shots on that 5-minute major the other night, right?
In Chicago.
and they're shooting the puck. And it trickled over. There were a lot more shots on the power play. I'm sure you have a stat from how many shots that they had. But I just think, again, I've said this before, and I don't know if it ever comes into play, but when you're at home, you kind of want to put a show on. And you know what? The management wants you to put a show on for your fans too. We want it to be entertaining here. But I think when things aren't going that way and they're not being able to pick you apart, you got to dumb it down a little bit. And I think that's what they did against Chicago. Yes, they got the goal, but they had a few other chances. And I don't mean
17 shots on goal on the power play against Chicago.
And see, to me, that was what they had talked about. And we saw it right off the very first power play. Somebody came down the left side, it was a shot on net. Somebody came down the right side, shot on net. And what that does, it takes a lot of the indecision away from the other players without the puck. We know we're shooting, so what do? They gravitate to the net, and that's where the rebounds are. So I would hope that they keep that same kind of mentality tonight. And again, if they get up by 3-4 goals and you get another power play, when you want to put a little Harlem Globetrotter stuff on, go ahead.
But make sure you've got a nice little insurance policy.
Yeah, I mean, but again,
I'm
I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So keep shooting and going for rebounds. I mean, just be a little bit more harder to play against, and don't let the 4 guys that are killing the penalty outwork the 5 guys on the power play.
All right, let's talk about the Buffalo Sabres. Their lineup is in. Here's their forward group. Obviously, Tage Thompson, the giant center. He's a very, very good player, along with Zucker and Tuck as their top line. I hear a lot of people, Luds, saying they think Dylan Cousins is going to be a huge star in this league, but his name is being thrown out right now, probably because of how bad the Sabres have been. Now, the Sabres have won 3 in a row, and they're scoring some goals. In fact, listen to these numbers. They went on a 13-game winless spell starting in late November, right around Thanksgiving. 0-10-3, and they averaged scoring 2.15 goals per game. Then, in the last 3, they've been averaging 5.67 goals per game. 4. Can you imagine when you add 3.5 goals a game, what it can do to your win-loss record?
Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah.
Can help. They've got their number 1 defenseman back.
Go ahead and show the D, John, as he's talking about this.
And you're going to see Dahlin. He gets up in the play. I mean, he's a horse. He can skate. He's a playmaker. He makes things happen from the back end, which is like having a 4th attacker. And I think that lends to these guys being able to get up the ice. And then you've got Byron and Power. Those 2 guys, the 2 young kids, are doing well for him. I think Byron's top guy in goals on the team or something like that. For defensemen. But anyway, I think Dahlin makes a big difference back there. But, you carry an anchor around your neck when you're losing 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 6 in a row. And I think now that top line, you got to be careful with Thompson. He has got a similar shot to Ovechkin, especially on the power play. He's got that big one-timer over there. So that'll be an important for the guys to keep an eye on. And again, like we talked about Zucker and the other guy, that Alex Tuck guy, who I like a lot. I mean, it's a good line. And I think that's a reason right there that you have the D pairings the way that you have them tonight, because we're going to see Miro up against that line all night long.
And that's why they want Lyubushkin there
and the
as
thing
well.
about Lyubushkin is he's steady Eddie. He plays the right position, and he's also similar to Essa. So Miro knows that when he jumps up in the play, he's playing with a partner that can play an outnumbered rush should it happen.
The Sabres, I looked at this. Talk about scoring, Luds. And why don't you tell me if you think there's any meaning behind this? They are plus 12 in the first period of games this year. Scored 41, only allowed 29. But they're minus 15 in the second period, and they're minus 6 in the third.
Focus. They drift away from a game. I mean, there's teams that will get better as games go along. Teams that start out quick, they probably have a little bit of success in the beginning of them. And they just think that they can continue on the route and they don't dig in a little more and it drifts away, or they get a goal and then they let up right away and next thing they can't catch up to the game anymore.
In those 3 wins they've had, remember, they hadn't won a game in December until the last 3, as they beat the Islanders on the road. Then right after the holiday break, they beat Chicago, and then they went into St. Louis the other night and beat the Blues. Their goalie, who's won all 3, has allowed 2 goals or less in all 3 wins and starts, and we're talking about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And he, Luddy, has been really good. But think about this. In that winless stretch, they were averaging 4.1 goals against per game. Last 3 games, 1.7.
I mean, again, one defenseman can change look what happens when we're talking about having one of the top defensemen on this team out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And the guy that can break pucks out, skate pucks out. And, right now, Byram's playing the most minutes on that team, but I think once Dahlin gets in there, his minutes are going to start to go up. His average minutes will start going up, but you're going to see him all in the critical situations. And again, he just lends to that offense, which ultimately lends to not spending as much time in your own zone.
And keep an eye out too, because Dahlin did not skate in the AAC yesterday. Buffalo came in from St. Louis. They had a practice yesterday. He was held out for maintenance. I believe Jason Zucker was as well. They're both expected to play, but it's going to be a fun one. And just for a little history, because Luds loves hearing about this, the Hellenium, which happened in 99, Brett Hull, final game of the 1999 calendar year, he scored his 600th goal to tie the game, and then his 601st to win it. Lud said he didn't remember. Do you remember Brendan Morrow fighting Kevin Haller?
No.
Or Haller in the game? They had a third period fight. I had to look that up, and that was before. Actually,
and it was in the third period?
It was the third period. It was after Hull scored the tying goal on the power play, but before he scored the even strength game winner.
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I probably checked out about the beginning of the second period.
We will be back for the post game. All of that will be, I'm not getting my hopes up to see Sam on a mechanical bull today, but maybe we'll get lucky in the spirit of the new year. Enjoy the game. Watch it on Victory Plus. We will join you, or hope you join us right afterwards. For John, for Luds, and for Sam, I'm Owen. Thanks for joining us. Go Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.